activist in the peace movement in Israel, or in 1948, Lavender area, how appropriate, for some years. And then something happened. What happened in the early 2000s, after the outbreak of the Second Intifada, after the retaliation and the crazy violence that swept the country in 2001, 2002, 2003, something happened to our movement, to the Israeli peace movement. And I think that in my eyes, BDS is an extension of that same shift. It is a shift that started with us working with Palestinians. I will show you a few slides about that, but it shifted our whole understanding of who is our movement and whom are we trying to affect. Because in the past we thought that we are the arm of the movement that tries to influence Israeli public opinion. And our audience was mostly the liberal Zionists in Israel. The people who believed, or so they said, in human rights, in democracy, in all the democratic values. And so we would try and show to them that what they believe in is not what is happening on the ground. We were trying to open up these cracks in their worldview. But I think that what happened is that more or less we have lost that audience. That audience used to be a very mainstream, very powerful audience in the Israeli public arena, but it is no longer the case. Most of the discussions today in the Israeli public arena are not about liberal values. They are very far removed from liberal values. We have overt racism. We have a crazy line of laws being made by the Israeli government, which is the most right-wing we've ever had. So this has changed. And for me and for many of my friends in Israel, it has a lot to do also with our changed definition of who we are. And that started with the anti-wall campaigns. It started in 2003, 2004, where villagers in the West Bank, along the line of the new construction of this monstrous apartheid wall, invited us to come and join them in protests against the wall, in non-violent protests against the wall. That's me. I'm bragging here. When I was thin. Okay, so this was a very empowering moment for all of us because we were invited. Also, internationals were invited. And this was an invitation also to imagine some kind of a joint political sphere. And I think now the slogan we say for it is co-resistance, not coexistence. Co-resistance and not coexistence. This is the wall. I just love that guy with the pita. So all along the route of the wall. And these demonstrations continue until this day, this very day. 2003 until today, we are now in 2012. Every other day there is a demonstration. What these demonstrations have in common is that they are strictly non-violent. In fact, now there is an institutionalized non-violent movement in the West Bank, holding annual conferences about non-violence and so on. And another thing that they have in common is that they are horrendously violent. There is a tremendous amount of violence in these demonstrations from the army. There are over 20 people who were killed in these demonstrations, some by live fire, some by tear gas canisters, some by rubber bullets. It's heartbreaking and it's very, very hard to be in. For me, that brings up the economy of guilt of the Israeli activist. You might be familiar with that as American activists. So the economy of guilt means that it's amazing, I want to be there. It's horrible, I cannot be there. If I'm not there, my friends aren't there. But it also means that our movement has shifted. Now we think of ourselves as part of a global movement which is actually Palestinian-led. And our involvement in this movement is through their invitation of us and through our service to this movement as our special position as Israelis. This is a very different understanding of who we are as Israelis. And the same movement that you heard about in Bilein, in Neilin, in Nabi Saleh, And you can go online and see these demonstrations. This last Friday, a man was, they set dogs on a man, was bit for 5 minutes straight. They didn't pull up the dog in one of the demonstrations. Another woman was shot in the back of her head with a rubber bullet. So it's tremendous violence. And there is also the other violence, the back violence, when they come in the middle of the night and they arrest children and hold them for a week in custody without any charges, just in order for them to point out who are the people who organize these non-violent demonstrations, so they can arrest them and hold them indefinitely. This is what's going on. This is the movement. So out of that movement, as I see it, grows the call for BDS. And the call for BDS